My name is David Bailey. I'm the Director of Value Realization in the Business Applications team in Microsoft's Corporate Customer Success team. And today I'd like to talk to you about value realization. I'd like to cover what it is, how Microsoft approaches the topic, and what you can do to apply value realization principles to your own business. So this is the agenda. Let's start with some thoughts on what value realization actually is. Price is what you pay, but value is what you get. That truism is attributed to Warren Buffett, but said by many, many people. And nowadays, we all know the price of everything, and we can compare and shop around and leverage the internet to our heart's content. But value is not always so readily defined. Now, I've had the opportunity and the pleasure over the last few years of talking with many customer and partner audiences around the world. And part of the conversation with those is to ask them to help us define what value actually is, and ask them to be specific as to the value that they think that they can take from using their business solutions. Well, as you'll see from the word cloud, unsurprisingly, the answer is there is no clear definition of what value is. Whether this is benefit, whether this is money, whether this is something measurable or even intangible. There is no clear definition. It's a very personal statement by each and every one of us. It's personal to every business and it's personal to every individual. Now, we've taken the opportunity to listen beyond that simple question of what does value mean to you, and actually dug a little deeper. And we've taken the time to do this in conversation with individual organizations, with focus groups, and with user groups. And what we've consistently heard is that what you as customers and partners want us to help you do is to help you to plan ahead, to think about the next few steps that you'd like to take with your business solution, to help you to do more with what you already have, to help you to leverage the investment that you've made. And finally, to help you understand where Dynamics, our business solutions platform, can actually help you to bring some incremental value to the business. And these challenges surface because most businesses only change their business platform across long cycles, maybe every 5 to 10 years. And so up-to-date knowledge of how to leverage the business platform across a wide set of best practices, use cases, is critical to driving the business forwards. And if you don't drive the business forwards, you'll end up with a black box which hums away and does the same thing day in, day out for your business, but isn't driving the business further forwards. What we do know is that value is fluid. So let's look at value in the context of a business solution. At a certain point in time, you as a customer will make a decision to acquire and invest in a platform. You'll go through the pre-sales process, a design, build, test process. You'll train your team. You'll deploy the technology. You'll go through the purpose of going live and then take it through into hypercare. And at that point, maybe a year, 18 months, or maybe even longer than that down the line from your initial decision, you'll start to take value from the platform. And value comes progressively. It slowly builds over time so that, as you can see in this original S-curve, once you have built the platform, you'll see value being delivered to your business across a single period of time. But over time, that value will not be growing at quite the same rate by virtue of competition, by virtue of new ways of working, just by virtue of doing the same thing and expecting a different result, which, as Einstein tells us, is madness, means that after a while, maybe a year, maybe longer into your implementation, you'll find that the growth in value will slowly diminish to the point where it plateaus. But if you do nothing from that point, there's a possibility that you may even begin to lose value through competition. Now, the S-curve is a well-known phenomenon in business. And clearly what you want to do at this point is to replan and to move the business forward, to actually try and gain some incremental value and go take your business through another incremental S-curve. And we call this point in time the innovation window, or what I prefer to do is call it the what's next window. It's the point within the life cycle of your business solution where you have understood the value that you've taken from the solution so far, but now you want to look ahead and build a new business case to achieve more. But where do you find the information, the knowledge to understand what you've achieved so far, or even what you can hope to achieve for the future? And the second challenge that we've heard is how to translate that complex solution into value which you can calculate and manage. Now, we know from IDC studies that most businesses will build a business case for a significant software investment. It says 95% here on this slide. I prefer to think this is more likely to be 99% than 95%. But given that most businesses go through the business case, investment case, and then make their decision to purchase, once you get through to the stage of deployment and get to the point where the solution is taken into production, IDC tell us that at that point, a year maybe so down the line from your initial investment, only a third of organizations still maintain the capability internally to be able to assess the value that they expect to take from their given investment. Now, that 35% is still, I think, quite good. A third of organizations, the world will have changed during the time between when they made the original investment through the cycle of their design, build, taking into production. So a third is actually quite a healthy number, but nowhere near the number that we would expect. Most businesses clearly would like to see value promised in the original business case actually delivered at the end of the cycle. But what I find really interesting is that the IDC study then found that if you are planning to go again, to take yourself from the top of that first S-curve and on to the next cycle, very, very few businesses, probably only 5% of businesses, maintain that internal capability to reflect on what they've achieved so far, to build a business case, and to define the investment and the expected return of what they can achieve in that second step, that second S-curve, and that second phase of investment. So when we need to plan, we need to build that business case for the future. And so to address these challenges, we've developed a methodology to help to define and quantify value, and then to drive value for the business. So what is value realization? And yes, I did say that this is about business. It's a business discussion, not technology. Microsoft naturally becomes associated with the technology discussions, but this is very much about talking to the business about their business. It's because value comes from applying technology, but applying it in the right way to support the needs and the goals of the business. So our definition of value realization comes from my boss, Vice President of Customer Success for Business Applications within Microsoft, Will Mosley. And his definition of value realization is it's a collaboration with the business, with the key stakeholders, the key decision makers within the business, but using their language and helping them to understand how to drive incremental business from their existing investment. Not looking to expand a footprint or to sell them more, but to look at what they already have, looking at the solutions which are already tried and tested, but seeing what it is that they can do to achieve more from that existing investment. Incremental value, achieving more from what they already have. Now, my practical definition is probably a little bit more basic than that, because I think that value realization is really about aligning your business goals to what the solution is capable of delivering by way of support. So value realization is around defining and aligning business goals, measuring and tracking the response that those goals demand, and then making recommendations as to how technology can be leveraged to support you in delivering against those business goals. Now let's think about what goes to make up value within an organization. As we said earlier on, it's not just about technology. Value comes from blending the platform capabilities and the undoubted value of the technology with business process and with the people skills that you have within your organization. But it's actually more than that as well. It's about aligning all of those things to the corporate strategy to make sure that the capabilities of the platform are focused on delivering against those corporate goals, and indeed delivering the expectations and objectives that the corporation is looking for. It's about making the right decisions and managing decision making in the right way, and it's also about leveraging the outcome of the solution, of the data that you have within the business platform to help you to make those better decisions. So let's take a look at the value management cycle. This is made up of 4 key steps, and the first of which is value definition. This is that pre-sales exercise that you will have gone through in terms of selecting a platform before taking it through the implementation process and bringing it into production. And at this stage in the pre-sales area is where you will have thought about, considered and defined the value points which you would see as return on your investment. And this is effectively where the value is promised as to how the solution will deliver back to your business. The second phase is value delivery. Here, the original definition is translated into a framework and delivered through design, implementation, the training exercises, and eventually bringing the platform into production so that you can take the solution live. And once we take the solution into production, then we reach the stage of value confirmation. Now, the promise of value, which we defined back in the pre-sales exercise and built during the delivery exercise, this is where we actually start to take the value. This is where we have that original S-curve. And that allows us to identify the value we are taking, to quantify it, and to actually make the judgment as to whether this is enough, whether this is what we expected, and allow us to make some course corrections if necessary. But value confirmation is very much about reflecting on what has gone well and measuring and metering and observing the way in which the solution is delivering on behalf of the business. And then finally, the fourth step is around envisioning. Now, envisioning is the point where we reach at the top of that original S-curve. It's about looking forwards. It's about saying we had a plan, we defined some return on investments and value which we anticipated. The value confirmation exercise has told us the volume of value that we have achieved so far. But now that at the top of that given S-curve, envisioning is where we look forward and given a new set of circumstances, which is probably a year or so down the line from when the original plan was created. And just think what's happened in the last few years: COVID, Ukraine, recession. The world is a very different place. And so take that opportunity to re-envision how you can leverage the capabilities of the platform to drive towards your new business goals, your current business goals, and achieve more value on behalf of the business. Now, those 4 steps are really a cycle, because the envisioning then cycles back round to the beginning with our value definition. But what I'd like to propose to you is that value realization happens at the point where you have the solution in production. So after the value delivery phase, when we talk about confirmation and envisioning, those are the two aspects which go together and form the value realization exercise. Now, the output of that exercise is something that we call the value path. Now, the value path is a single document. You can see a representation of it on the screen there. But it's, as we said earlier, it's a collaboration between customers' business stakeholders, but also with business solution experts and key partners. So whether this is Microsoft or your implementation partner, this is about a collaboration between the business and the technology aspects of the organization to be able to build a roadmap based upon the knowledge of where the business wants to go and identify ways in which the platform can support them on that journey. Now, I'd also suggest that value realization is not necessarily a very deep, high intensity consulting exercise. It should have minimal interruption to the business. It should take a moderate amount of consulting effort, and it should take a short period of time to actually conclude. It should be a snapshot, because value realization is really a cycle, as we saw earlier on. And so at a given point in time, you need to make this snapshot to be able to make the assessments and the course corrections, which will help you to deliver more value back to the business. So the value path itself is made up of a number of different components. You'll see at the very top a list of outcomes. Part of the methodology that we have is to help you to think through the key goals that the business is trying to achieve, and then to break them down into outcomes which are A, achievable, and B, can be supported by the business solution. So we talk about these as the key objectives. And in any objective, it defines a direction, but it also needs to define some key results. The elements which are important to the business in terms of KPIs or things which can be measured, but more importantly, represent measures of progress towards achieving those objectives. Because this is a journey, and the idea is to be able to set the direction that you want to go in and then measure the progress towards a given journey. The third step, which you'll see at the bottom of the screen here, are the initiatives. And initiatives are how we achieve those objectives and achieve those key results. You'll see also that these are broken down by time, by 3 different horizons. At the very bottom, recommendations listed here are things which may have an impact on the business within the next 3 to 6 months. Things which are relatively quick and easy to implement. Another set of recommendations in the middle there, the Horizon 2, is about innovation. Those are maybe 6 to 12 months out, layering on capabilities onto the foundation to allow the business to achieve more. And then finally, the top level horizon, the darker one, Horizon 3, is about transformation. And those are probably a year or more out. And so those are things which are likely to layer on additional capabilities which can drive the business forwards once we have the strong foundation in place. Now, those initiatives are basically what are provided by the technical solution architects, the business skill sets, the technology skill sets, who can align the capabilities of the platform that you've already invested in to the objectives and the key results. Now, the value path also allows us to give you some understanding of the potential impact. And if you're prepared to share some data with us, then we can translate some of the business goals that you have, some of those key metrics, and give you some indication of the kind of return on investment that you might be able to expect. But the real value of this comes from the fact that this is a roadmap aligned entirely towards the business objectives, not a technology roadmap to keep you current to the current Microsoft released platform, not a technology roadmap just to keep this solution maintained, but something which is entirely aligned to what the business wants to achieve and broken down by timelines to help you to actually identify your own priorities, your own timelines, and your own way of achieving these goals. So how do we get to that value path document? Well, our methodology is really based upon a very simple 3-step process. Think about this as a customer journey. The starting point is really that destination. Let's see if we collectively, in collaboration, can clarify and define what the outcomes are that we're looking for from using the business solution. What are the objectives we want to achieve? What is it that's aligned to the corporate objectives, but something very specific maybe to your business? And if we can identify those objectives, then can we identify not only what the statement is of what we want to achieve, but can we put a measure to it? Can we identify a key result in terms of a percentage or a number that will grow to demonstrate for us the progress that we're making towards achieving that end result? So once we have the opportunity to define the destination, and that's something which we call intent, then the second step of the process is to try and assess in this customer journey where you have actually got to in the journey to date. If we have to go from A through to Z, have we reached C or F yet? How far down the path are we on the journey? And we do that through a discovery process, through some assessments to actually look at your business with you to understand what's gone well, what hasn't gone quite so well, where there may be opportunities, where there may be pains that need to be addressed, but basically to take an assessment to understand at a reasonably high level, without diving too deeply, where there are opportunities to improve and drive additional value from the platform as it stands, and then co-create with you that roadmap of opportunities which we will suggest will guide you towards achieving that value. And the third step is really the roadmap. The gap between the journey to date and destination is a list of recommendations, a list of technical recommendations, a list of change management recommendations, a list of people or process recommendations, maybe some recommendations around governance or around the management of data, but all things which are aligned to helping you to achieve your business objectives. Because the process behind this is about driving the business, not about driving the technology. So the other thing to remember is that this is not a one-off exercise. Because of the fact we're trying to help you to achieve more from the investment that's already in place, it's a cyclical exercise which we would suggest is a point in time to begin with, maybe a workshop to set those goals, to understand the objectives and the measures which we need to track. But then on a regular basis, maybe quarterly, to actually check in and check that we are making progress, both measuring and observed towards achieving each of those objectives and goals, recognizing the achievements that we have already made, and if necessary, using the opportunity to make some course corrections so that we can remain on track and remain heading towards the key goals. So this is our quarterly check-in. This is leveraging the value path model, which we saw earlier, but adapting it for the purposes of the check-in and merging together the realities of what we had recommended and the alignments that we had suggested, but merging in the measurement and observation of what has been happening since those last check-ins. So the statement here, or the dashboard here, is really trying to share and surface for the management team what's been done since the last workshop or the last quarterly check-in, what's changed within the business as a result of delivering those recommendations, what impact has this had on your organization, and what course corrections may or may not be necessary to make sure that you achieve the goals which you've set for yourself within the timeline which you have set for yourself. And you'll see here that the two the two areas of highlights and impact have been identified. So the highlights is really calling out those achievements of what has changed and what is moving forwards and driving the business today, and celebrate the fact that we have those new improvements. And the impact at the bottom is to actually merge that measurement and observation. The measurement is in the charts. The observation is what we may hear from surveys from users, from observations by parts of the business, and give us a full 360-degree view so that we can be more tangible in terms of what we define as value that we're taking from the platform. So that's a run through of the value realization concept. How do you get this exercise done if you recognize yourself within that story? Well, if you're here, if you're at the top of that original S-curve, if you're at the what's next moment, or you want to get a handle on the value that you are taking from your platform, then there are several ways in which you can move forwards. So Microsoft offers a value realization engagement as part of a value-based delivery. So if you have a unified support contract, then talk to your customer success account manager about the opportunities for the VBD. We have a growing number of partners who are trained and willing to offer not only the workshop, but more to help you get started and to drive you towards achieving more from your platform. Or check out self-help resources for objective setting, managing key results, and these are available online at places like LinkedIn, for example. So that's my story about value realization. Thanks for your attention. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions in the chat afterwards. And if you do choose to go down this path, I'll wish you all the luck in the world.